But let's move on to something that really is concerning. At least 24 million people who watch Netflix Adolescence. I did. Did you?
You see, I'm on episode 1 at the moment.
But isn't it horrific?
It's gripping.
Amazing,
And
right?
it's just the way it's done on one shot, one singular shot. And it absolutely adds to the intensity, doesn't it?
Completely. I was watching it alone, and I could have been sort of lolling on the set. I sat bolt upright because it was so sort of chilling. I was kind of, oh my gosh, what is happening now? So we'll just show a little tiny bit of this, and then we'll show you why.
Don't sit down, I have to stop this discussion.
Maybe I want you to.
Do you?
It'd be off that, wouldn't it? You'd have to go home and then come back again.
Jamie, if you do not sit...
Look out! I want to sit down! You do not tell me when to sit down! You do not control what I... Look at me now!
Are you all right? You look a bit red. Did I scare you when I shouted?
She wrote this on your
I mean, I'm only 13. I don't think I look that scary.
Well, if you haven't seen it, everybody's talking about it. The show isn't a whodunnit, it's a whydunnit. And it shines a light on this worrying trend rooted online of misogyny, violence towards women and girls. It's raised a whole lot of questions about raising boys. How do you do it? So when it comes to teaching them to respect girls, what's the drill? What are you supposed to do? Is it your job as a parent entirely? Is it more specifically something that a dad needs to pass down to his son? What if a dad's not in the picture? Do schools have a part to play in this? Do tell me your thoughts on that one. And you know it's the kind of Andrew Tate philosophy that is percolating down to millions of young boys. Do get your calls in now. It's 0207 862 2222. That's 0207 862 22. I'd like to hear what you're doing at home about this, whether you're addressing it and whether it's really worrying you. So you are the mum of this lovely boy. I mean, I've met him many, many times. The legend that is Jackson. He's a sensitive boy. He's creative. He's a great singer. He's funny as hell. He's good, and actually a very good artist as well, isn't he? He's a very talented boy.
Yeah.
But you must be concerned about this. How do you instill in him respect for women and don't get him swept away with all of this?
Do you know, it's interesting you're talking about this, and I've never really had this problem with Jackson. He's always been kind, sensitive. He's super sensitive to people's feelings. Like if he sees a kid who's been isolated or on their own, he'll always make a beeline for them. So he's very, very kind. But, you know, you do have to negotiate little dramas that they go through or what they think is massive in their heads. And it's funny you were talking about social media. Jackson got a phone, his nan bought him a phone, and he doesn't use it. He's not interested, which is great.
Interesting. I mean, he's only 8.
He's 10.
10. He's 10. God, I thought
he's 10.
He's 10 now. So he's still kind of slightly pre the sort of age that you might get more and more nervous. Are you going to start kind of checking the phone and making sure?
I check YouTube. Right. And when he goes on his iPad a fair bit, and I check with any games he's playing, if he's chatting to anyone or anything, you know, I monitor that now. But it's a hard one because sometimes he'll say things to me and I go, well, how do you know that, Jackson? Where'd you hear that? And it's from school or something he's seen on YouTube. You can't wrap them up in cotton wool, can you?
I don't know.
And
I'm
it's
not
difficult.
sure how hard you need to try and how hard you don't. I think it's a big, big question. And I think at some point the government are going to get more involved. I think head teachers are going to get more involved. I think it's one of these such uncharted territory that we don't quite know what we might be exposing them to.
I think social media can be like the Wild West.
Exactly.
And I think we will look back in the future and go, wow, to think that was allowed, which we do about things now, which is from the 90s and 2000s.
Yes.
And that kid, what a wonderful actor.
Superb.
Non-actor.
Non-stage school.
That's it. And
amazing.
After his audition, apparently Stephen Graham said, well, we found the next De Niro.
Not surprised because it's remarkable.
Brilliant.
Let's go to a call. Karen's on the line in Birmingham. Oh, and I'm delighted to say she's a head teacher. So this is brilliant. Karen, thank you so much for calling. So tell me how you address this in your school.
Hello. So, yeah, it's really tricky for these young boys. And I think what we have to do is recognise that they're under so many pressures and have so many different views as what masculinity is, what it means to be a young man and what they should and shouldn't be doing. So we just really openly recognise that they struggle with this and they're quite vulnerable. And so we explicitly teach them masculinity and how they might be perceived in certain situations and what it actually actually looks like to be a man
teach
and
me,
their
Karen.
behaviours.
Karen, I'd love you
Well,
to teach me. I mean, when you say you teach them masculinity, honestly, my mind went completely blank, and I just thought, how do you do?
How do
what
you
do you
teach
do?
it? Yeah.
we don't really know what you mean. How
And
do you
also,
teach
all kids
it?
are different, aren't they?
Yes. What do you teach, Karen? We'd really love to know this.
A lot of it is discussion around different views of masculinity, but how that can be perceived. So, for example, if they're on a bus and there's lots of spaces and there's only one woman on the bus and you choose to sit next to that woman, how does she perceive that, and what does she then think of you as a man doing that? Also about keeping themselves safe. How do you keep yourself safe as a man and know who the good influences are, who the bad influences are, which ones to believe? But also as a young man, how do you have the courage to ask for help? And our boys, they're lovely boys, and they are gentlemen, and they do come and work really cooperatively with us. But we have really strong role models in school who
Karen, would you be
role model that
teaching
behaviour.
the girls a different ethic of behaviour to the boys, or would you teach them all the same values?
Absolutely. It's about them having that open dialogue, discussion and understanding of each other and each other's roles and perception in general of young people. But it's the girls as well who also have pressures on them. But as adults and as educators, we have to be really open to, instead of just being scared, to have these discussions with them and to help them, support them in a safe environment, being open to those discussions and showing them what it can look like, helping them to navigate the things they're seeing and what that means, and the things they're doing and the pressures that they're under from other people.
As a head, have you done this? Is this your own initiative to do this, or are you kind of in a coalition of head teachers, all of whom are starting to address this, Karen?
No, this is how I work in my school with my staff, who are fantastic and who are very expert at working with young people. We have lots of boys. We're a school for children who have been either permanently excluded or due to be permanently excluded from mainstream education because of behaviours. And so we are quite expert in supporting, majority are boys, but we do have girls as well, with behaviours and how they're perceived and how they can navigate the world and be people who can then function in society and who can be successful in society.
Thank you so much for ringing, and couldn't commend you more highly on the work that you're doing and for addressing this really important issue. Thank you so much. We'd love more of your calls on this. How do you teach boys to respect? Girls, do get the calls in now. The number to ring is 0207 862 2222. That's 0207 862 2222. Later on, we're going to be asking, is the menopause still misunderstood? Mine's been going on 13 years. Thank God nobody warned me.
You're still in it now?
Yeah, I'm still in it. Any minute I could have a hot flush. No warning.
Really?
You'll see. If you do, I'll give you a cue card. You can just fan me. Just fan me with that. Okay, if you take pity on me if I do. We'll see you after this short break. So now I'd like more of your calls on this. Whose job do you really think it is to teach boys and young men to respect women? 0207 862 2222. That's the number. Do give us a ring. Like Claire, are you raising boys and worrying about how to talk to them? Maybe you're concerned about what they might be looking at online. Should we go straight to Brian in Norwich? He's on the line. Brian, hello there.
Hello, Vanessa. It's lovely to hear from you.
It's so nice to hear from you. Tell me about what you would do to instill in young boys respect for women.
Well, I've got 3 boys, and they're grown up, and I've always instilled in them and say you've got to respect a woman. You've got to respect them. You don't, diss them, or if you've got to listen to a woman, you've got to, because they're the lifeline for your family. They are. I was brought up like that. My father was the same. And it just goes through generations. And even my grandchildren, they're the same. My boys tell the grandchildren, you've got to respect your mum, you've got to respect you, and that's simple as that.
Yeah, Brian, thank you for ringing. And, it does sound very simple, except if you're online and you're targeted and you've got the kind of Andrew Tates of this world telling you that women are, kind of conspiring against you, that they won't have sex with you because I think they say 80% of women are only attracted to 20% of men. So you may never get sex, and it'll be those awful girls and women who won't let you sleep with them. That's the philosophy. It's horrible. I feel horrible even saying it, but that's the kind of philosophy that's out there. That's what comes through in adolescence. And that's what we've kind of got to protect our boys and men
I think also
from.
we need to talk about just protecting our kids generally, to respect people. The other day, I had a little thing with Jackson. He kind of did something I didn't quite like. And my friend Tony, Fat Tony, the DJ,
Yes.
Fat Tony, we FaceTime him and I said, you know, Jackson's just said this. And he had a chat to him. And it's just about respecting other human beings, isn't it?
It is.
It's not just necessarily men and women. It's just general respect and boundaries.
And also the idea that the world isn't conspiring against you. You know, women aren't some unified force that exists to torment men by withholding sex. Women are basically your sister, your mum, your doctor, your teacher, the bus driver. They're just people just like you. That's the thing we've got to get across somehow. Let's talk to Mandy in Manchester. Hi, Mandy.
Hi, Vanessa. Are you okay?
I'm okay, love. Tell me what you think about this. What should parents do you reckon?
Yeah, well, put my points forward. What it is, I've got one boy and two girls. But what it is growing up now, there's violence around them, whether they're online, on the phone. Also, there's abusive parents. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I grew up with one brother and 5 sisters. You know, I've seen violence. So I was rebelling. My brother was rebelling. He had to look after 5 sisters. So, you know, some mothers do the best and talk to the boys.
So are you saying, Mandy, it's important to get to the root of the problem, to find out why people are behaving in certain ways, to try and understand?
Yeah. Yeah. What it is, they're just picking up on it. Sometimes you do show your children respect, but it's if they want to take that, because some children can have the best parents to respect the wife, to respect the mother, and sometimes they can rebel on things.
Certainly. Well, rebellion's a huge part of teenage life anyway, as we all remember.
You know
We were talking about this the other night.
Yeah, I remember trying to get away with as much as I possibly could without my parents finding out. I'm not going to say what it was on television or any other place either. Let's go to Amanda, who's on the line. Amanda, you have worked on this with your son. What have you done? What did you do?
Yeah, my son, he was 4 when his father died. So all his life he worked. He grew up with mom, and he's got a sister, grew up around strong women. And I'm sure from my accent you can tell I am African.
Yes.
And so, you know, it was in me to make sure that I bring up a well-rounded young man, because I did not want as well to be judged for people to say, what do you expect from a single mom? And I can tell you, Vanessa, when he was 15,
yes,
I know I had a telephone bill where it was, and I was like, something's going on. When I did my mom's investigations, I found out that he was going into adult sites. So I was not angry. Yes, I was disappointed. I called him. I thought this is an opportunity to teach him. So we sat down and said, I have eliminated myself. It's not me. It's not your sister. It's you. Let's talk about this. Obviously, I understand you are a young man growing up. You want to experiment, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, I said, you need to realize that some of those women that you see in those sites, they are not doing that because they want to. How would you feel when one day you are watching that and it's me or it's your sister on there? He just broke down crying. He said, Mom, I'm so sorry. And from that conversation, we are so open, even that on his 21st birthday, I remember in front of his friends, I said to him, when you get married, when you are married and you start having issues with your wife, and if she came to me to confide in me, do you know that I will be coming for you? And he was like, but Mom, why? I'm your son. I said, that's my point exactly. I am a woman before I become your mother. So as a result, he's really grown up to be this grounded young man, so much that he struggles, because if we are honest, the feminism swing has gone the other side.
Got to say, I'm actually in awe of you.
Yes,
because
great.
I do think I've been guilty of, even as a grandma actually, wanting to be my child or grandchild's pal and friend,
Yeah.
and, you know, rather than take that kind of proper disciplinarian responsibility. But I really love what you said. I feel like having
Being
it
a woman
embroidered on a
before a
cushion.
mum.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm a woman before I'm a mum, because, you know, if your mum tells you that, then you can't dismiss all
Yes.
women and hate women. Brilliant call, Amanda. Thank you so much. Let's go to Francesca in Kent. Hi, Francesca. What do you teach your boy?
Oh, hello there. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.
I just rang in. I don't normally ring into these things, just because I was compelled by the way that the question is phrased.
Good.
How do we teach boys to respect girls? And for me, it's more about teaching my young son how people respect people. And I
Excellent.
think part of the kind of
agree.
problem, and Claire said is the root cause, looking at that root cause, is how we use kind of language to talk about these issues, because it always seems like we're setting up boys against girls and girls against boys, rather than talking about how kindness in humanity and showing compassion to each other, no matter who we are, has to be at the core of all we do.
I'm with you on this, Francesca. Yeah.
So am I.
Yeah.
So am I, 100%. And so you have said and stressed, girls are people, you're a person, we all feel the same, we all want the same kind of stuff, attention, affection, safety, love, loyalty.
And
there's not some weird
my
thing
little
about
boy-
girls, is there? We're all just people.
Yeah,
That's the whole
exactly.
point.
With my little boy, you know, he comes out with things like, oh, boys are better than girls. And I say, well, not really, darling. Girls and boys are just the same. They're just, you know, we're all people. And, you know, as a result, I think if from really early on, you don't kind of say, oh, you must respect women, of course, you know, you must, but you must respect people. So you're not creating that divide between us. As you said, Vanessa, you're just instilling values. That means that that person will then want to do the right thing no matter who they encounter.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad you chose to phone this show when you never normally do that sort of thing. I take that as a huge compliment, Francesca. Thank you very much indeed, and you put it brilliantly. Let's go to David, who's in Cheshire. David, your thoughts?
My thoughts were on this subject, and the way I behave were instilled into me from my mother.
Oh, really?
I'm 77.
Yeah.
And respect for people was instilled into her from her pre-1900, her Boer War and her First World War soldier father.
Yes.
Anyway, so I still say, after you, young lady, or after you, sir, and it doesn't matter where they are, what they're doing, and that's it. I hold doors open. The other day I was called a dinosaur for doing so.
How rude the person was to
Chivalry,
call
isn't
you
it?
that.
Chivalry.
I mean, the person who called you a dinosaur may have feminist values, but has no manners, I'm afraid. It's simple as that. That's just damn rude. And that's shocking. But obviously, it's been so deeply instilled in you and so ingrained in you that you will continue to respect people, even if they fly in your face with rudeness, David. Thank you so much for ringing. I mean, gosh, this is a subject that really has ignited people that, you know, adolescence has worried people, hasn't it? It's put the wind up people, because we know that little boy's parents felt, because he was in his room, he must be safe.
Yeah.
And they got that terribly wrong.
Yeah.
So we know now that, as you beautifully put it, it's the Wild West out there. If you've got a smartphone, you're never alone. People can target your kid 24 hours a day. If the child's being bullied, there's no sanctuary from the bullying, even in their own bedroom. If your child is on some horrible site that you would be devastated to know that they were on, you don't know because you're asleep, you think they're in their room. So I think it has done a magnificent job in alerting the nation, don't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And on the flip side of it as well, when I talk to Jackson, he tells me incredible facts about history, about countries. Where'd you learn that, YouTube?
Absolutely. So it can be fabulous.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Still to come on the programme.